Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV, back with another Market Watch episode. So obviously the big news this week was the full reveal of Ghosts from the Past, which, well, let's just say it leaves a lot to be desired. There are some really great reprints that were really needed to improve accessibility of certain cards to the player base, but if you look at the chase cards outside of the Ghost Rares, right, you're looking at evenly matched, and that's kind of it. Maybe that's a discussion for another time that we'll have next week. Anyways, today we are looking at some shifts that took place on the market directly as a result of the Ghosts from the Past reveals, where some of the cards are shooting up in price because complementary pieces are being included in the set, while other cards are finally tanking at long last. Let's get started. Alright, so kicking things off, let's take a look at one of the key big reprints from this set, Buster Dragon. So Buster Dragon has literally never seen a reprint before, despite being a key card that's needed to play the Buster Blader deck that has popped up occasionally over the last couple of years. Because of this, we've actually seen this card run up in price to anywhere from $50 to $70 at its peaks, though for the most part it was realistically like a $30 to $40 card. Now, however, we finally have Buster Dragon being reprinted, and it's actually also going to be an ultra rare, which is the same as the original Breakers of Shadow print. Because of this, we've already seen Buster Dragon fall down in price to about $15 a piece. This is a pretty quick and significant price drop, as it was just bought out right around when the ban list dropped, as people freaked out when the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword was unbanned once again, but obviously that price cooled off really quickly. Now, to be honest though, I think that Buster Dragon is only going to continue to fall in price even for the original ultra rare printing. Buster Dragon had a really niche usage in the meta, it was only an important card in the one strategy, and realistically that strategy isn't really going to be a part of the meta anymore. The card was only expensive because it was hard to find with just the one printing, but now that everyone is going to have access to it, I would expect the reprint to only be $1 or so at most. It doesn't help that both versions are actually ultra rares, so it's not even like there's going to be a huge visible difference in the way that the two different cards will look. That being said, expect the originals to fall down into the single digits, probably around the $5 mark, within a few weeks of the set's official release, and don't expect it to bounce back up again anytime soon. Next up, we have another card I want to take a look at that is being reprinted in Ghosts from the Past. We have Orchestrated Return. So Orcus were supposed to have some sort of big comeback into the meta with the release of Gersu, but really ever since Harp Horror was banned, the deck just hasn't been able to perform. It's a little bit sad, but there's definitely just too many bricks in the deck, and its power level can't quite compare to some of the other meta decks that we have in the format now. However, with so many people hopeful for Orcus to be playable once again, Orchestrated Return is a card that has remained expensive over time, a secret rare from Soul Fusion that was never reprinted, yet was a key card for the Orcus strategy because it allowed you to get an Orcus card into the graveyard from your hand, and also allowed you to draw. Because of this, we frequently saw Orchestrated Return at around the $20 mark, despite the deck not performing. The case here is very similar to that of Buster Dragon. The card was expensive because it had that very niche demand and limited availability, but now that it's reprinted, the card being so much more accessible will almost certainly tank the card's price back down. Orchestrated Return is already at $10, and just like Buster Dragon, I would expect it to continue staying down into the single digits. However, once it does tank, I do think it's a card that's worth looking at picking up. On one hand, we could definitely see Harp Horror unbanned or new Orcus support in the future, either of which would create a demand for Orchestrated Return, and of course, the originals are secret rares, while the reprints are ultra rares, and the original print higher rarities will basically always shoot up in price first. That being said, I would definitely consider Orchestrated Return to be a bit more like a penny stock type of card once that reprint does hit, and we finally see the price collapse, because there is a decent chance that we could see the price bounce back up eventually. The next card we're taking a look at here is Cosmo Farm Girl. So Farm Girl actually used to be a really important piece of early Cosmo builds, as it searched for a Cosmo card if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points. It was really useful for facilitating OTKs or searching out Cosmojo to out cards like Utopic Future or other Dark Destroyers. Now in Ghosts from the Past, one of the few leaks from that video that we saw was for a reprint of Emergency Teleport. People took that and kind of freaked out, thinking that it meant that we were going to see some Cosmo reprints and that maybe Emergency Teleport would go to 2 or 3 and make Cosmos viable once again. However, what we saw from the YouTuber openings was that several key Cosmo cards, including Cosmojo and Tin Can, are going to be reprinted, but there are certain pieces that are not. Farm Girl is one of the cards that isn't going to be included in Ghosts from the Past, but is still potentially a really important card in the deck, and as a result, it saw pretty significant buyouts within the last couple of days. At the moment, you're looking at having to spend anywhere from $20 to $25 for a single ultra rare copy of this card, and then $18 for the gold rare reprint, with extremely few quantities of either version of the card available on the market. This is a pretty significant price spike for a card that was only $1 or $2 a couple of months ago. Obviously, the price of this card is going to cool back down within the next few weeks as people gradually relist theirs back onto the market, though if emergency teleport does go to 2 or 3 on the next ban list, or we get some sort of Cosmo support, expect this card to spike in price once again, assuming that it still hasn't been reprinted yet. Although I would say that this is a card to be selling right now while its price is inflated. Keep an eye out for a few copies of this card when it does dip back down, because it's likely to bounce back up in the future with either the right ban list change or the announcement of new Cosmo support. Next up, let's talk for a second about Dragunities. So the new Dragunity cards that we're getting in Ghost from the Past are quite good, and I know a lot of people are really hyping them up, claiming that they'll be able to take Dragon Link to the next level or even perform really well as a standalone deck. I don't know too much about that, but I do know that of all the different Dragunity cards that exist, the only one to receive a reprint in Ghost from the Past was Phalanx. There are actually several different Dragunity cards that really could have used reprints, such as Divine Lance, Trident, and Barcha. Now, one of the most notable exclusions here was Dragunity Knight Gaydirg, a level 6 synchro monster that lets you search for a level 4 or lower dragon or winged beast monster from your deck, and then discard a dragon or winged beast as well. I believe that for the most part, you want to use this effect to get either Zephyros or Mist Valley Baby Rock into your graveyard so that you can summon them out as a combo extender. Anyways, Gaydirg is a card that only has 2 printings available, with both of them being slightly old. We have the original secret rare print from Starstrike Blast, which is of course going to be very difficult to find, running about $85 at the moment, and then of course we even have the short printed reprint out of the original Battles of Legend set, which was kind of overlooked at the time, now going to cost you around $5 to $6 a piece. This is definitely a card that you're gonna need to play at least one of if you want to use the Dragunity package at all, so if you're hoping to build the deck after the official release of Ghosts from the Past, I would definitely move quickly and grab your copy of Gaydirg now that it's confirmed that it's not being reprinted in the set. Depending on just how good Dragunities are, either as a pure deck or with the rest of the Dragon Link cards, I could definitely see the ultra rares shooting up in price to around $15 to $20 just because either version of the card is actually relatively difficult to get a hold of. This next card is a little bit more of an obscure one. We have Aromaseraphie Jasmin. So this is a Link 2 monster that you can make using any 2 plant monsters, and it has a pretty solid effect, allowing you to tribute any monster that it points to summon a plant directly out of your deck. It also lets you search for a plant from your deck to your hand if you happen to gain life points as well. However, this card isn't picking up attention because of Arrow Mages, but rather the new Sun Avalon archetype that's coming out in Ghost from the Past. Now, if you haven't looked it up, it's basically a plant-based combo deck that revolves around spamming monsters out of your extra deck. To be honest, I don't know too much about how good Jasmin is in the deck. I've done a little bit of research into it, and even though they all seem to at least run Jasmin, it isn't a card that it looks like they go into very often. However, it's probably just one of those types of cards that's just so generically useful for a strategy that you'd rather always have access to the card than be caught without it. This card has actually historically been a bit of a penny stock, always around that $1 to $2 mark. However, within the last couple of weeks or so, we've seen the card climb up to its current market price of $7 each. I don't think that Sun Avalon are going to be a meta relevant strategy or anything like that, but there will definitely be players who want to try and play the deck for fun, and they will need to pick up a copy of this card as well. If you happen to have this lying around in your bulk somewhere, now just might be the best time to dig them up and offload them while the hype for a brand new archetype is still in the air. Alright, we're shifting away a little bit from Ghost from the Past to talk about a couple of smaller meta trends that we're seeing now. The first one is with Fantastical Dragon Fantasma, which is looking at potentially re-emerging as a meta hand trap once again. I believe it does see some play in the Dragon Link mirror match, though just like before, it's potentially useful against any deck that goes into Link monsters, which is pretty much everything except for Virtual World. Now, I believe that this is also partially due to us seeing an increase in the play of Nibiru, as Fantasma can potentially allow allow you to draw into Nibiru during your opponent's turn in order to break up their combos and prevent them from setting up some sort of crazy board. Now fortunately at this point in time, Fantasma does have multiple lower rarity printings with an ultra, super, and gold rare reprint, so you're no longer forced to spend over $100 on a single copy of Fantasma. However, it is worth noting that the secret rares are actually trending back up in price. Now, while they were $20 a few months ago when Fantasma was seeing virtually no play, we are now looking at $30 for the original secret rare unlimited versions and $50 for the first eds, with barely any copies available on the market right now. This is a trend that we see with a lot of staple cards, where even when the card gets reprinted multiple times, the original first ed printings retain value and actually go up over time. It's still early because we're not seeing a ton of people running Fantasma right now, but this card's price is going to depend on just how much play it sees moving forward. Look at something like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, where the original first eds are $90 despite how many reprints the card has received. Keep an eye on your copies of Fantasma for just in case they start to make their way back into the meta again. It might be worth holding on to a few lower rarity copies just in case the card does start to see an increase in play and those lower rarity versions start creeping on up in price. But if you own secret rares, definitely keep an eye out for that potential price spike in the future and be ready to offload them when it does. So Fusion Deployment is a bit of a weird one. This is a fairly new card out of Eternity Code that provides support for fusion strategies, letting you special summon a monster that's listed as a fusion material from out of your deck. I don't actually know exactly what this card is expected to see play in at the moment, if anything. I think it is used in dual avatar, though that's definitely not going to be seeing any meta play anytime soon. I do think that technically we might see it be useful with the Arcana Knight stuff that's coming in King's Court. Maybe you could use it to summon a Jax, Queens, or King's Knight from out of your deck, but whatever it is, apparently this card has doubled in price from $10 to $20 over the last couple of weeks. I believe that another contributing factor here was that this card was featured in a video from the Kali Effect, where he talks about cards that you should be looking to pick up now, where he asserts that all it takes is for one Broken Fusion archetype to come out for this card to see a huge spike in demand and therefore a huge spike in price. And that's definitely true. I could definitely see some crazy fusion-based archetype coming out and abusing this card big time. My problem is that this card is from Eternity Code, right? And it's therefore expected to be reprinted in the 2021 Megatons. It kind of has a bit of a time restriction then, where it'll spike up if we do see a fusion archetype to abuse this card sometime later this year, but if not, then the expected Megaton reprint will tear its value down. It's definitely a bit more of a gamble to try this card out, because there's no guarantee that we will see such a fusion archetype before that reprint drops. For me personally, I'm erring on the side of caution and offloading this card now while it's hyped up. Alright guys, the last card we're going to take a look at here is Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. One side deck card that we're seeing a little bit more play from recently is Super Polymerization, and Starving Venom Fusion Dragon is definitely one of the best Super Poly targets to have available in your extra deck. You can make this card using any two Dark monsters, so that means that Super Poly can help get rid of a card like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. Now this card does have a couple of pretty situationally useful effects, allowing you to potentially copy an opponent's monster's effect, as well as steal its attack points, which is kind of nice. What's really cool is that if this card is destroyed, it does also destroy all of your opponent's special summoned monsters as well. Anyways, it is primarily the original secret rare Starving Venoms that we're taking a look at here, which are currently $35 lowest on TCG Player with fairly low quantities available. Admittedly, the card does also have a secret rare reprint from the Megatons, which is only going to cost you about $5, but looks basically identical, so that might actually be worth grabbing for now. However, what's also worth noting is that the lower rarities are all worth a couple of dollars a piece, despite there being multiple printings available. I think that even the rares from Legendary Duelist Immortal Destiny are still worth almost $2 each, so they're definitely worth digging out of your bulk. I definitely think that this is an easy card for people to overlook and disregard as not having very much value just because of how many reprints it has seen, but with the increase in play that it's seeing this format, all of the versions are actually worth something. Definitely a card that you guys should be looking to dig out of your bulk and offload for whatever value you can, especially if you're able to find and move those original secret rare prints. Alright guys, that is it for today's Market Watch episode. Don't worry, I do have other things that I want to say about Ghosts from the Past. Maybe I'll drop some more of my thoughts about that set next week or something like that. I thought that at the very least we'd have that Ghost Rare Dark Magician girl to look forward to, but I guess we're stuck with Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon of all things for now. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch video, please make sure that you hit that thumbs up button for me to let me know. Also make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards that we talked about today, or let me know about what other cards are trending on the market that you guys want me to cover in a future episode to keep all of the rest of you as informed and up to date as possible. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself here on the channel. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.